Hello and welcome to the next season preview as a part of Drum Corps Central, a podcast, this one coming for the Spirit of Atlanta Drum Corps from Atlanta, Georgia. Spirit of Atlanta is a 20-time DCI finalist, though their last finalist finish was in 2013. They look to change things this season. Their best finish in Corps history was 4th place back in 1979 and 1980. Last season, their best finish in quite a while, especially since 2013, they finished 13th place and 85.588 on season's end. So, first part I'm going to dive into in this season preview is the 2019 show schedule for Spirit of Atlanta. They will start their season off June 24th with Drums on the Ohio in Evansville, Indiana. Then they'll have 2 more consecutive shows. So to start off their season, 3 consecutive shows: Evansville, Indiana, Hamilton, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They then will take June 27th off to travel out to Indiana, then will participate in the DCI premiere event, DCI Central Indiana, on June 28th. Another 2 consecutive shows to end out the month of June 29th in Rockford, Illinois, and June 30th in Rochester, Minnesota. So a lot of shows to start off the season. 6 shows, 7 days. Not really what you're seeing from a lot of corps anymore, especially with the new protocols and policies and stuff that DCI has put into place. But really, if you're looking at these events, they're not far distances. I mean, some of them are farther than others, but there's enough. There's enough time between, I think. So you start off with this constant show schedule, and then Spirit just takes 4 days off. Now, granted, you think you have to travel from Minnesota to South Carolina, you have July 4th with parades and activities, so you really factor in 2 to 3 solid rehearsal days in that time period, which I like because you take the feedback from the judges from those first 6 shows, and really that's a good solid group of judges. Like 6 shows, you're only going to be repeating judges 1 or 2 times. So really, that's just a lot of solid information coming in to the corps. And then they can change what they need to change, and I'm sure maybe a new ending or new piece of the show will be added by Crown Beat on July 5th, and then the DCI premiere event July 6th, DCI Orlando in Orlando, Florida. So then, the second part of the schedule takes Spirit up to their home shows in Valdosta, Georgia, and Houston, Georgia, with the Drums Across America series in Valdosta and Atlanta. So Houston is more of it, Atlanta, I guess. Then they will move up to Tennessee, do 2 shows there, Drums Across the Smokies, and then DCI Memphis, another premiere event on July 13th. They'll travel from Memphis out to the St. Louis area, Belleville, Illinois, on July 14th. They'll take the 15th, 16th, 17th. They'll get down to Texas, then July 18th, DCI Central Texas in Belton, Texas. That show, I'm going to call it now, Spirit of Atlanta is guaranteed to win that event. That show is a letdown, I would say, because that's the show Flow Marching sponsors. You know how there's like this show presented by Stanberry Uniforms, this show presented by Fred J. Miller. This is Flow Marching's sponsored show, and it is not very good, especially when you have a corps that finished 13th as the winner. That means you do not have a single top 12 corps there. And I'm saying Spirit's going to win, mostly based off the fact they go on last, and the rest of the show is not a solid event. So, just a little bit background on knowledge on that show. It's not really a premier event. Then they'll finish out this part of the schedule July 20th with the DCI Southwestern Championship in San Antonio. Then finally, that finals push to end the season starting July 22nd with DCI Mesquite traveling throughout the South End to Dothan, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia for the DCI Southeastern Championship. A good show for spirits, because when you have original in your hometown, something only the Crossmen and the Cadets can speak to as well. It really, especially for Spirit and the Crossmen, and really the Cadets as well, just a outpouring of support in those locations from alumni and fans and parents and whatever else, prospective members, among other things. So really, just that's always a fun event, because when they announce Spirit coming on, it's like the great applause and everything. It's really cool. July 28th, then they get to perform at Night Beat this year, Crown's home show in Winston-Salem. Then they'll work their way up the Eastern Seaboard, July 30th, Drum Corps American Tradition Annapolis edition. They'll go up to Rome, New York, do Drums Along the Mohawk, then come back down for the DCI Eastern Classic on August 3rd in Allentown, Pennsylvania. August 4th, DCI Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania then, and then they will go to DCI World Championships in Indianapolis, August 8th through the 10th. They definitely look to make the Saturday event for the first time since 2013 this year, and I think they have the best chance to do so since 2013. So as we take a little bit more in here to the 2019 Spirit of Atlanta, let's first look at the two drum majors they have selected. First, Gretchen Kasel. She was the Oregon Crusaders drum major last season. She is also a music education major at the University of North Texas. And second here, Bailey Burks. She marched in the Spirit of Atlanta horn line in the 2016 and 2017 seasons. So next up, the 2019 main staff for Spirit of Atlanta. Between 2016 and 2017, lots of change happened for Spirit. If you think about the 2016 Drum Corps season, it really was one of the major events, or series of events, I guess, that pushed the marching arts activity further along. What really comes to mind on that is the innovation in Carolina Crown show, Relentless, but mainly the innovation in the Bluecoat show, Downside Up, where they had the pink slides, props that really had never been seen before, crazy props, and then also thinking of their the uniforms, because nothing had ever been seen like that. And Crowd really started doing that in 13 with like the change from the tradition, but other than that, really everybody was still with those kind of somewhat traditional uniforms. Then the Bluecoats come out and just like trash what everyone's known, really. And that's really what pushed the activity along, and I think that's something that'll go down as what has changed the scenery in terms of the design process in marching band and drum corps and winter guard and winter percussion and whatever else. And the reason I bring that up is because Spirit of Atlanta, as I mentioned, had a lot of change between 2016 and 17. 2016, if I remember correctly, they had a show entitled Georgia, and I don't know what they were thinking, honestly. That was near the end. It seemed like Spirit was coming to an end, like, if even being half competitive. And then 2017 came, and it was like, well, this show's not finalist worthy, but it sure is quite a lot better. They did the Crossroads We Are Here show, changed the uniform, made it more innovative, played some not familiar music, but catchy and, I guess you could use the word innovative music. And then last year came with the Knock show, and kind of kept that same uniform design, changed a few things with it, but they really kept the innovation going a little bit. And Spirit's been right on this trend. Really, without this, if the Blue Coats don't bring out that crazy stuff in 2016, and nobody ever does, I don't know if we're even talking about Spirit, let alone making finals, being even like a semifinalist, or maybe even a half competitive core. But Spirit has gone right along the trend lines and is right where they need to be. So the reason I bring that all up now is for the main staff. Starting at the top here, Jeff Pearson, Executive Director of Spirit. This is his second season holding that position. He was previously the director at the Boston Crusaders, Santa Clara Vanguard, and the Santa Clara Vanguard Cadets. Chris Moore, he is the core director and also the brass arranger for the core this season. He is the current band director and coordinator of percussion studies at Georgia Tech. He marched Spirit in the 1980s and served on their instructional staff later in the 80s into the 90s. Sal Salas, he's the artistic director and program coordinator for Spirit of Atlanta. He's been an instructor, designer, director, and judge in the marching arts during his time in the activity. He's been the executive director of the Madison Scouts, and he's worked with many high school programs, including two very successful programs in Seven Lakes High School in Texas and Clovis High School in New Mexico. Not necessarily successful already, but they're definitely two of the most up-and-coming programs in the nation. John Seipert, he is the battery arranger and percussion caption head for Spirit of Atlanta for the 2019 season. Matt Filosa, he is the front ensemble arranger and sound designer. He's currently the percussion director for Melissa High School and Melissa Middle School in Texas. He's the co-owner of the marching arts design company Synced Up Designs. He also currently works with WGI Percussion Group, Music City Mystique, and another DCI World Class Drum Corps in the Cadets. Jason Palmer, he's the drill writer, or one of two drill writers for Spirit of Atlanta, I should say. He teaches visual arts, and he's the percussion director at Mount Juliet High School in Tennessee. He's worked with the Cavaliers, the U.S. Marine Corps Winter Drumline, the Glassmen, the Colts, and more programs. Giles Ouellette, drill writer and staff coordinator for Spirit. James Gabonet, color guard designer and color guard caption head this season. He's worked with Hempfield High School and Gateway High School, both programs in Pennsylvania. Also Cadets 2, the Troopers, and he's the current color guard director at probably the most successful, if not one of the most successful programs in the state of Pennsylvania in Norwin High School. David Walker, music ensemble coordinator for Spirit. Dan Adams, visual caption head. He marched Santa Clara Vanguard in the early 2000s. He's worked with the Santa Clara Vanguard Cadets, Pacific Crest, the Academy, and he's currently the director of band and choral programs at the St. Anne Baselli Catholic School in Georgia. This is his 7th year with Spirit of Atlanta. Freddie Martin, one of the iconic figures in Drum Corps internationally. He's the senior brass advisor for Spirit of Atlanta, Andy Poor, brass caption head, and Daniel Allen, the battery coordinator this season for Spirit of Atlanta. So as all corps do, Spirit of Atlanta follows a little bit of a preseason schedule for the first month or so before the season. They start their preseason rituals or activities or whatever you want to call it on May 17th with the color guard early move-ins at Gordon State College in Barnesville, Georgia. Then the brass percussion drum majors move in the next day, the first part of spring training being held at Gordon State College from May 19th to May 25th. Then from May 25th till June 18th, they'll have spring training at Luella High School in Locust Grove, Georgia. June 18th, that final day of that part of spring training, they have their concert in the park at the Woodruff Arts Center in Atlanta, Georgia. They finish up their spring training June 19th to June 22nd at Carrollton High School in Carrollton, Georgia. And then finally, June 22nd, they have their preview show at Carrollton High School in Georgia. So, Spirit of Atlanta, as I said, they've been following the trends that have been set in drum corps the past few seasons. but they haven't got to finals yet. That, I honestly think, has a good chance of changing this season. Of course, depending on how this show here turns out. The 2019 production is entitled Neon Underground. There's not been a lot said about this show. This was kind of not a soft release, but it was released, and then they came back later and released the repertoire, which I'll get to in a minute. But if there's a show title you really can't get to, it's Neon Underground. Like, okay, nothing, I mean, you can't, like, turn out the lights on the drum corps field, so nothing's really going to be neon. And underground, you can't have anything underground. So if you really break it down, it's like, okay, this show doesn't make any sense from, like, a looking at perspective. So, next resort, it's probably one of these more abstract show titles. As they cite in their article on their website, it's kind of what we're seeing from a bunch of different corps, and it's actually become kind of like, I guess you could call it a meme. Everything's underground this year. You've got Carolina Crown with Beneath the Surface. You've got the Mandarins with Subterra. And you've got Spirit of Atlanta with Neon Underground. And then others. But I'm just touching on these three now. Between Spirit of Atlanta and the Mandarins, these shows seem almost identical. You've got this... One of the things Spirit cites is strangers move together and apart. The dance in the dark, creating curiosity and intrigue. It's like exactly what the Mandarins say in theirs, as well as like there's this underground city and you have to look at what they've done. Like, they're like the same show, and it'll be very interesting because those are two of the corps that will be battling for a final spot this season. I honestly think the Mandarins are into finals by a good margin, that is. And then, really, you got everybody from Phantom down to the Troopers, Madison, that area, fighting for a final spot, which I really still haven't determined who's going to do that. I don't think it'll be determined until August 9th, that is, with the DCI World Championship semifinals. I think this is going to be one of the most interesting, it will be the most interesting battle this season, is that 11th and 12th final spots, because you've got 6-7 corps fighting for 2 spots, if even, because maybe Phantom will come out with something very good, or the Crossmen will come out with something good, or maybe one of those other corps will shoot up and separate themselves. Spirit of Atlanta's repertoire, getting back to that, is Crump by Scott McAllister, You and Me by Eliza Doolittle, Attraction by Emmanuel Sojourn, and Color Wheel by Arch Echo. Definitely another one of these more familiar, I guess you could call it, and more accessible musical selections, more modern music being listed there. So, really, if you ask me what Spirit will do this season, I see them falling possibly just short or sneaking right in. I could honestly see them being right in 14th at season's end, but I could also see them being 11th. I don't know if they can go any farther down than 14th, because they've really, as I said, been right on the trend lines of where they need to be. But it'll all be the different things, the different decisions the design team makes, how the performers execute, the different props and uniforms they bring out. It'll be all of those different things as contributing factors to whether Spirit of Atlanta makes finals or not this season. So thanks for watching this season preview for Spirit of Atlanta. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA summer tours. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DrumCorpGeek, and subscribe to my YouTube channel where this podcast and more will be posted, Drum Corps Central. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day.